I think we're good to go.
Okay then.
Right then, Chris.
Awesome.
Right, if you introduce us.
So this is the Lad Chat podcast. This is special today with Tom and Chris.
Just the twins today, and we've got a guest.
A special guest, Martin. Oh, sorry, Martin. I was looking the wrong way. So, Martin Kenny. Do you want to introduce yourself, Martin?
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Martin Kenny. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
So, Martin, how would you describe yourself?
I'll describe myself as a alternative researcher. I'm mainly focusing on cosmology of our universe, of our Earth, where we are, why we're here, and where we're going, basically.
Fantastic. And Martin, people might know you. You were recently on This Morning, weren't you?
I was, yes.
This morning. And how did that come about, Martin?
Well, last weekend we had the first Flat Earth convention in the UK. Certainly in the last 100 years. I know there were some in the early 1800s, but certainly in the last 100 years, this is the first one.
Wow.
So I was invited by the organizer, Gary John and Didi Vanna, as a speaker. So I was presenting my model and my research, and I suppose the media obviously caught wind of it and invited me on the show.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. And did a lot of people attend that? Was it well received?
Yes, oh yeah. We had 200 people over the weekend, over the 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Is it, I mean,
Yeah.
so this is, when you say it's the first one, is this the international first one, or is this the first UK one?
First UK one. The first international one was last year in California. Raleigh, I think.
Right.
In the United States. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's absolutely fascinating. Yeah. So, what are your views then on the Earth and the flat Earth, I suppose, we want to talk about? What's your thoughts on that? And what makes you think that?
Well, to cut a long story short, I think we can all agree that not everything we're told is the truth, right?
Yeah.
We can all agree on that.
I agree.
Yeah, you turn
absolutely.
on the news.
I'm a huge conspiracy theorist, Martin. I'll be the first one to say that. Absolutely. And I do my own section on the show. Everyone knows I'm a big conspiracy theorist.
Absolutely. So everyone agrees with this, regardless of what angle you're coming from. We all agree that, there's something not right about the reality, about what we're told by mainstream authority. So I find it weird that many people, when they're faced with the idea that maybe we've also been lied to about where we are, it's why is that so far-fetched if we've been lied to about everything else, right? We're lied to about fake wars, we're lied to about weather, about food, about money, politics. So why would science be any different?
No, it's a valid point.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, so that was my approach, and that's how I normally like to open my argument with, and say you've always got to have an open mind. If someone tells you one lie, it's enough to question everything they've ever told you.
No, you're quite right.
I agree.
And that's a good place to start.
Definitely. So the flat world then. This is we've had a lot of interest on this when we mentioned it in the podcast. So why do you think the world's flat then? What makes you think? What is there evidence to suggest that it is flat?
Yes, well when I came across this about 2.5 years ago now, like everybody else, I laughed and I scoffed and thought, oh my God.
I think that's the reaction we get, isn't it? When someone says the world's flat, straight away they're absolutely crazy. I before knowing you were coming on, we've not introduced it yet, so it's a bit of a special for us. I joined the Flat Earth Society UK, the Facebook group. And a lot of reaction is quite negative, and I'm quite disappointed actually. Looking on the comments, and people were saying, I think the world might be flat, and quite a lot of comments are like, he's fucking nuts, he's this, he's that, he's a kook, he's crazy, you shouldn't, do you come? Sorry, I just get really.
Yeah.
Just went on a tangent there.
Right.
I know, I often go off on a tangent, so you have to stop me if I'm going nuts.
So evidence-wise, what evidence have we got then? The world's flat.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I mean, for me, the first thing I did, once I got over the whole laughing and mocking and pointing fingers and saying, oh, you're all stupid, you're all crazy, it sort of came to a point where I asked myself, right, do I believe everything I'm told? Why do I believe in the globe? Why do I believe the Earth is a spinning globe?
Yeah.
And the answer I gave myself was because that's what I've been told.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I've been told. Right? I've got no proof. I've never been high enough to see it myself.
Yeah.
Of course,
I've never done any experiments to prove any motion of the Earth or any of that. All I've got is what I've been told and shown. And who has shown me and told me this stuff? Right? Authority, school, television. But that's not reality. Right? As we know, just because it's on the news or it's coming from government on TV does not make it a fact.
No.
Right? Just because something is believed by the majority of people does not make it a fact, right?
True.
No, you're quite right, yeah.
So when I sat down and thought about it, I thought, well, the only way I can prove this is to go out and research this for myself.
Okay.
And go out and try and find answers that I can test. I do my own science, basically.
Yeah.
Stop and do my own science. So one of the biggest ones, one of the first and easiest ones was, I was told, as we all know, we live on a ball, and proof of this, apparently according to mainstream science, is if you go to the beach, and you stand at the beach, you will see a ship disappearing, right?
Yeah.
And it's normally disappearing because it's going over the edge of this ball, right? That's what we're told, and we all believe it. So, a simple experiment, get high-powered binoculars, or there's a camera called a P900.
Right,
I did. I went to the beach. I watched a ship disappear over the edge of the Earth. I then took my binoculars out. I pointed it roughly in the direction of where the ship was and zoomed in. And that ship came straight back into my view.
Yeah. Mine, can I just, in terms of that then, do you know when the ship actually disappears? Why would you suggest that it disappears from the bottom up then?
It's just perspective.
Right.
So obviously there's a lot of atmospheric interference. There's atmosphere. There's refraction. There's all kinds of natural obstacles.
Yeah.
Right.
And even optical illusions. Our eyes can only see so far.
Yeah.
So it's down to perspective. That's all it is. It's down to perspective and atmospheric refraction and conditions. And that's why we lose sight of things at a distance.
Okay.
Fair enough. I know. Is it over Lake Michigan, and they can and there was an experiment where was this San Francisco or something? I don't know. There's a city, and literally they could see the whole city, and it was actually a reflection off the sea.
Yeah.
And people were saying what a weird phenomenon. And actually, some of the I agree. It's
So Martin.
I mean, there's so many of these proofs. I mean, recently there's a group called FE Core, which is a group of flat Earth scientists who've got together, and they are actually doing proper scientific experiments.
Yeah.
So just last week, actually, they did a laser experiment. They shot out a laser over 40 kilometers, I think it was.
Wow.
And they should have been a certain amount of a certain drop of curvature.
Yeah.
And that laser shouldn't have been seen from the other side of where they were shooting the laser from. And it was. So that in itself debunked the whole Earth being a ball, because we're told that Earth curves at 8 inches per mile squared.
Right.
So every mile, the Earth drops 8 inches.
Yeah.
And then 16, and then 32.
Right.
Because the Earth is only supposed to be 24,901 miles in circumference, which is not that big.
No. So Martin, flat world theorists, how big do they think the world is then? Is there a generally accepted size?
No. So here's the thing, right? Here's one thing that I know, and most flat earthers know. We all agree on one thing. We all agree that we do not live on a violently spinning ball. We're not spinning. We're not moving. We're not upside down. Water doesn't, stick to a spinning ball. It always seeks its level. We see this in everyday nature, right?
Yeah.
And people say, yeah, because of gravity, and gravity does this. But even science says they don't understand gravity. It's still a theory. That's why it's still a theory. So how can you hinge the entire model of the Earth on something science says they don't understand themselves?
Yes.
Right?
Valid point.
That's a red flag. Straight away, you should start wondering, well, hang on a minute, if science is saying we don't understand what gravity is, or what causes gravity, then shouldn't we be questioning all of it? Right?
Yeah.
So, we all agree on that one fact. What we don't know is the true shape of the Earth.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got our theories, our different theories and ideas, but they are theories. Right? We don't know how big it is. We don't know the exact cosmology of where we are because we don't have the resources. We don't have the resources to go high enough to see for ourselves or to venture to the outer extremities of the Earth to do the scientific research ourselves. So I can't say for a fact what it is, although I've got my own theories.
So when people say flat world, right, Martin, what do people mean by flat Earth? When they say flat, a flat circle, a flat, like a plate shape, is it? Or what do people, because flat, it's a vague term, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is a vague term, but like I'm saying, no one has got the exact answers. The reason why people say it's flat is because we observe water, right?
Right.
Sea
Okay.
level is always level. It's always level. That's what water does. You pour water into a bucket, it always seeks to find its level. It doesn't bend. Water doesn't bend. It always
No, well, you're right,
finds its level.
because off the topic, I was sorting out my garden today, right, Martin? So I put a bit of water in my bird table, and you're quite right, my slabstone wasn't quite flat, and the water just poured everywhere. It was a bloody nightmare.
Yeah.
And I had a hole in my bucket as well, Martin.
Crap builders, obviously.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, you're quite right about that.
So based on that basic scientific experiment, it tells us that the Earth must be level.
Right,
Because that's what sea level shows us. It tells us that the waters in the seas are level. They're not sea curved. It's sea level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to your point about the curvature of the Earth, have you ever heard about the Danyang Kunsan Grand Bridge?
Yes.
It's the longest bridge in the world. It's 102 miles long. And I was reading about this, and what they were saying was that to make up for the curvature of the Earth, it should be from one end to another. I think it's about 4,000 foot difference or something crazy like that.
Absolutely.
But apparently there's no, it's the same height either
Oh,
end.
wait there, 102 miles long?
It's massive, isn't it?
What? How big? That's like
from here almost to you. It's in London.
Yeah, it is. Only 140 miles to Cardiff to London, isn't it?
Yep,
about
and there's
Jesus, it's
no measurable
massive.
curvature whatsoever on that bridge.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mental.
I thought that was really, really odd, actually, when I was
Yeah.
reading up about this. I just thought it was absolutely unbelievable to think that.
So, Martin, do you subscribe to the line of thought, right? So I've done a little bit of research about this. A lot of people think there's kind of like an ice wall around the world. Do you subscribe to that?
Yes, I do. I certainly do.
You do?
So I think the South Pole, or the Antarctica, is the outer rim that holds all the waters on our plane in. Almost like
Game of Thrones, isn't it? Like the Game of Thrones wall.
Yeah, rim.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly that. So I definitely subscribe to that, And most people say, oh, if the Earth is flat, why don't you fall off the edge, or why don't you go to the edge of the world?
We had a lot of
because
that,
we're not
didn't we?
allowed to. We're not allowed to, right?
What
There's
is
something called-
over there then? Is it just an endless
Sorry?
plain? Is it then an endless plain, do you think, of ice? Or is there... I only ask this because I've read a few different theories. One being that it is literally an ice wall that's a few miles wide, a few hundred miles wide. Another one, which is a bit out there, is that, we share this huge, vast plane of Earth with different times, different universes, different aliens.
Yep.
Some of them were saying
Yep.
dinosaurs. Or what's
Yep.
your train of thought? Have you got an opinion?
I subscribe to that theory as well. I certainly think they are, I wouldn't say aliens, I don't like that word aliens, but extraterrestrial beings.
Wow.
So they are other beings further down, the further out you go.
Wow.
So I think the Earth is much, much, much bigger. There are other civilizations and races and species and beings the further out you go. definitely.
So really, aliens aren't out of extraterrestrial. They're very terrestrial. They're just a different.
Yes.
Oh, that's crazy. Yes. That's crazy.
Hey, Martin, while we're on the subject of extraterrestrials, right, and it ties in with what we were talking about earlier, I was flying home from Greece.
Oh, God, here we go.
Here we go, Martin.
Yeah, sit down.
Right, you sat down, Martin?
Yeah, make sure you come
I was flying home from Greece and I saw these lights, right, in the sky. So I filmed them on my phone, as you do, put it online. I was ridiculed, Martin. And ironically, I didn't actually put them online. That said, it was the bloody media who did it. So you're right, Martin. They get everything wrong.
It's amazing thought.
Yeah.
But you do get ridiculed, and it was true. And I, as I said, I used to work in TV, so a mate of mine, I was chatting to a mate the next thing. Oh, my reporter mate's going to give you a call. I told her what happened. She got everything bloody wrong, apart from my name, actually. And no, you are quite right. And online, this guy's there slagging me off, Martin.
He did a good job, didn't he?
He ripped me a new arsehole, Martin.
He tore him off a good strip.
Yeah, I think people fear things they don't understand. You know, it's a comfort thing. When someone hears something that is outside their comfort zone, straight away out of fear, they laugh.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because they're afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid. It's fear.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, Martin, what's your background then? Like, what do you do? What's your day job?
Well, at the moment, I'm a full-time researcher, pretty much. I call myself a syncretic researcher. So I pretty much research ancient mythologies. I research mainstream science. I research ancient scriptures. I research everything and try and connect the dots. You know, so if one line of information is saying something that is agreeing with another one, sometimes you might say, okay, that's a coincidence, you know. The Greeks said this, and so did the Dogon Africans. Maybe it's a coincidence. But then if another culture, the Vedic Indians, and the Bible and the Quran are all saying a similar thing, then that can't be coincidence.
No.
Right? It can't be coincidence. There must be some truth in that, because so many sources of information are saying the exact same thing. So that's what syncretism is.
You're quite right.
That's what I do.
Because when they talk about Bigfoot and things like that, again, I know that's completely out there, but a lot of people, you know, a lot of different cultures have very similar creatures who wouldn't necessarily have ever met. You know, when you've got like Native Americans who talk about Bigfoot, and then you've got Africans and what are they called? The Serengeti
Yes.
That's something completely different. But no, you know what I mean. So you're quite right there, Martin, because cultures who probably would never have had any direct contact with each other.
Well, there's a good book, Technology of the Gods. David Childress. Have you ever read that?
No.
And this is what he sort of is a alternative thinker as well, and what he says is, you know, there's these unexplainable massive leaps in technology where someone in, for example, in Britain maybe developed the same sort of technology as someone in Ethiopia thousands and thousands of years ago without any, to us, without any, you know, contact, without any way of communicating. It's the same in, you know, in Japan, you know, the Aztecs and things around the same time. They all seem to be, for some reason, developing the same technologies about the same time.
Yep, absolutely. Now, here's an interesting one. You know, people often say to me, you know, you really think that there are undiscovered lands and beings out there further down south? And I say to them, let's rewind 300 years ago. No, 500 years ago, right? Let's go back in time.
Yeah.
And let's ask the common man in the UK, right? Englishman. And if you said, if you stopped an Englishman and you said,
Martin,
what if I told you?
Let's go Welshman.
Yeah.
Let's go Welshman.
Okay.
Welshman.
Sorry. If you ask the common Welshman and you said to them, what if I told you that there are other lands with black people that look different to us?
Yeah, you're quite right.
Right? He would have laughed at you and thought you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. Right?
Yeah, you're quite right.
Before Africa was discovered, it would have been just absolutely insane. Like, what are you talking about? There's nothing out there. There's nothing out there. You just get lost.
When elephants were first introduced into Europe, they thought it was the end of the world, you know? They couldn't imagine that sort of animal.
Until someone went there and so-called discovered these other lands, and they were like, oh, wow, shit, yeah. There are other beings that look different and speak differently, you know, further down.
Yeah.
So who's to say that has ended? Who's to say that's the end of it?
Well, I know my grandmother, and this is going off on a bit of a tangent. My grandmother during the Second World War. She was from County Durham, Middle England, sort of only person she knew were people in her village. During the war, she had to go to work in London, and she saw black American soldiers. And she didn't know what the hell was going on. She rocked the world. She thought everything in the world was the same as her. She didn't know that there were people that were black, from different countries. She thought everything in the world was the same as her. And this is this century. My nan was a bit... backwards.
There you go, and that's a fantastic example. So who's to say that the further out, once we get past this ice wall that's being guarded by the powers that be, who's to say we won't get there and find new races of beings?
Yeah. Martin, so to bring you up on what you've just said, then, so who do you think patrols it? Because it is kind of like the Night's Watch, isn't it? Do you watch Game of Thrones, Martin?
You get in a heavy...
I have, yes, yeah.
Well, interesting, there was a 1958 Antarctic treaty, wasn't there?
Yes.
Are you aware of that?
Yes.
So people, you're not allowed to just... There was an Australian guy, is he Australian-American, who went to the Arctic without any permission, and he got arrested. He's in jail now. Well, he was in jail, I don't know if he's in jail now. But this is the only treaty that every country, major superpower, they all agree on.
They're very protective of them damn polar bears, aren't they, Martin? Yeah. Absolutely love a polar bear. Hey, Martin. So who do you think patrols this thing then? Is like, again, is it kind of like, I know it's an extreme example, kind of like the Night's Watch, isn't it? Like there are people who are just there patrolling. Do you think it's like a military thing? Like who would be patrolling them?
Well, I don't think there are military bases around the Antarctic. You can Google that. And I think there's 70-something or something like that.
Quite
a lot of military bases all around the Antarctic.
Whoa.
What are they guarding?
What
are they all guarding? All these military bases? Polar bears? Penguins? It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. And the Arctic, apparently, Anthony, has got untouched resources, gold, oil, coal. It's got petrol, all these things that, are very valuable, exceptionally valuable, in a day where every day there's less gold, there's less coal, and you would think, the Russians and the Americans would just be like, oh, we're having this, but go off everyone else. But none of them
no one touches it. No one talks about it. It's funny how they tell us that science, we're going all these billions of miles into deep, dark space, and yet we know nothing about the Arctic and Antarctic region.
We're gonna get to that. Don't worry. There are million questions about that. It's unbelievable. Do you know when go into when we're talking about aliens? When you are you aware of a guy called Charles Hall? Charles Hall. He's a guy. He was in the American Air Force. He claims that he lived. There was an alien deep space in the middle of just out of Nevada, wasn't it?
Yes, right.
And what he claims, he was a weatherman there for 2 years, and that he encountered tall white aliens. He said that they were from another world. He said that they were sharing technology. What's your thoughts on that then?
Yeah. I think these are called the Aryans, aren't they? Aryan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they refer to the tall whites. That's right. Yeah.
He named them the tall whites. He coined the phrase the tall whites. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. This is it's a very, very deep topic that we'll be here for a long time trying to explain it. But in essence, my theory and my research tells me that not only is there land in the outside, in the Antarctic, past the ice wall, there's also lands at the North Pole. So there's a continent, if you like, at the North Pole. That is a tropical continent. What the Bible calls the Garden of Eden.
Oh, you think that's a real place, Martin?
Sorry?
That's a real place. Like people think it's a real place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a real place. Yeah.
I know.
The Greeks called it Hyperborea. The Indians called it Shambhala. In Wales, they call it Anwin.
Oh, Anwin, no, did they?
I heard that.
Anwin, yeah.
Do you know? There was ancient maps, and they were drawn, thousands and thousands of years ago. And what they drew was actually a continent in between, so in the Pacific, between America and Europe, as it were. Did you know that? A lost continent that was documented, and they I can't remember what it was.
No.
And I can't remember.
I don't know. I reckon he made that up, Martin.
I didn't make it up, honestly. I didn't.
No, you're right, because when I started researching, a few of me and we found loads, and I mean hundreds of ancient maps going back mainly from the 16th and 17th century that show other lands that are not on today's maps.
Yeah.
So it's almost like around about 1750, it stopped. The maps all changed. They literally stopped putting these other lands on the world maps, and they started showing a different world, I guess.
Yeah.
And teaching a different world. Yeah.
Do you think that could be down? Could that be down to global warming or temperature changes? That ice has melted. No. I think those places exist. Yeah.
Particularly at the North Pole, there is definitely lands at the North Pole. Anduin, Hyperborea, Shambhala, Eden, Arcadia. All kinds of mythical names are given to this mysterious land at the center of the earth. At the center of the world. So I'm almost sure that there is something there.
Yeah.
And there are also lands on the outside as well, beyond the Antarctic.
So Martin, do you think that these, like we touched on it before, but do you think aliens and stuff like that, they're not necessarily extraterrestrial, just maybe from the other side of the wall, is it? As it were?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what we call extraterrestrial beings or UFOs, they're not coming from deep, dark space up there in the middle of nowhere. They're coming from extraterrestrial terrains of land here on Earth, on our vast, vast Earth. So there are maybe, who knows, there could be thousands, if not millions, of different races of beings on an infinite plane. Wow. People say, where's the edge of the Earth? Who's to say there is an edge?
Yeah. No,
there might not be an edge. It might go on for God knows how long. The Earth itself.
Yeah.
We don't know. Yeah.
Because Martin, what you touched on earlier, you mentioned, you talked about the maps and different maps and stuff. Africa geographically is bigger than it's always represented on a traditional map.
Yes.
It's like 5 times as big, isn't it?
It's like absolutely massive, isn't it, compared to where it's always represented. And Britain is always smaller, isn't it, in Europe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many anomalies about when you look at maps. Here's a good one for you, right? Did you know that pilots and sailors and the USGSG, the official map makers, when they're training pilots and sailors, they train them using the azimuthal equidistant map, which is a flat Earth map.
Really? I didn't know that. That's quite interesting.
All coordination is done using a flat Earth azimuthal equidistant map. Almost like the UN flag. Have you seen the UN flag?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the azimuthal equidistant map.
Oh,
so you ask yourself, hang on a minute, when you're a pilot, why are you training how to fly over a flat Earth?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, actually.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so
So Martin, because I listened to your interview on Good Morning with all Phil and Fern. No, not Phil and Fern. Phil and Holly, isn't it? Phil and Holly.
Were they nice after the show? Were they really nice, or was it just?
I met Phil before, and he was pretty sound, actually. I gotta say.
They were a little bit confused.
Were they? Well, I met him and his wife and his family, and he was pretty sound. I gotta say, he was all right.
I've heard rumours about him.
You haven't?
And his wife, yeah.
Oh,
don't worry.
Leave it there.
Yeah.
Anyway, Martin, you made a really good point, and one of the other hosts, James, also thought it was a very valid point when you were talking to Phil about planes, and at some point, if a satellite was watching a plane, you're quite right. Yep. It would literally be flying upside down, wouldn't it?
Yep, it would.
If it was literally,
it should be.
Yeah, it would look like it was flying upside down, which is a really valid point. I thought actually, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and imagine this: if you were out in outer space, and you are, you were at a certain distance, and you're looking back at the Earth, you should be seeing rivers flowing upwards.
Niagara Falls
would be flowing upward that way.
Yeah.
From underneath the Earth, which is crazy when you think about it.
No. Well, as I said, I think your point on the plane flying upside down is valid. I found that quite an interesting point.
Do you know what's your? Because obviously there are satellite. Wow, is, governments would tell us there are satellites whizzing around, thousands of the ISS live. I'm streaming the ISS live. Actually, I'm not streaming the ISS live because it's gone down, but I am streaming.
What's the chances? Mine has gone down as we're talking about.
Don't worry, I've got a backup. So there's an ISS station now. What's your thoughts on that? Because I mean, me and Tom in the past, we've gone out, haven't we? We've gone on ISS tracker, and it said. Yeah. If you look up at the sky to the northwest at 10 o'clock in the night or 10:05, you'll see
you can track
the ISS. Yeah. And it does actually appear to fly over.
Or something does.
Something flies over. What do you think about that?
Here's a very simple question that will make you doubt what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Right? How big is the ISS? How big do you think it is?
It's about, isn't it about 400-500 meters?
Is it as big as that?
It's about the size of a bus.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's the size of a double-decker bus.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's the size of the ISS is the size of a double-decker bus. Now, how far away do you think it's up in the sky?
It's about 300 miles, 250 miles.
Right. How far up does an aeroplane fly?
Yeah, 'cause it's only about 7 miles or something, isn't it?
Right.
Oh, is that right? Is that right?
Planes.
It's 7 miles, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 30,000 foot, isn't it?
So how are you seeing something the size of a bus that is 10 times further away than a plane?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, yeah.
Shall I tell you one thing? One thing I always find really odd about the ISS live feed. You would think that, if you've seen it, definitely have a look. One thing that I find is absolutely strange, and I'm watching it now actually, is that you would think on the whole of this station where you've got unobstructed views of the whole Earth, they're showing a really weird, not clear view, is it? And I've always wondered why they would do that. It's like look, you can see it's like a third of the picture is obstructed by solar panels, and it's obstructed. I've always found that really, really, really odd.
I've got to say, from here, it does look pretty round though. But looking for saying that
someone
though,
in the end.
saying that though.
You've worked in TV, right? You've worked in TV.
I
You've
have,
heard about the fourth wall, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ask yourself, why do we never ever see anyone in the ISS panning the camera around?
Yeah.
All the way around to show you.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's always one sort of little angle.
It is.
They never ever show you too much.
I've questioned that, and I always question that. I always have debates. Why didn't they film the ISS, International Space Station, being put together?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why didn't they do that?
Absolutely.
You would think it's probably the most complicated structure ever made, and no one thought. Well, think of how difficult it is, and no one ever took a picture of it.
Absolutely. So I think, right, a lot of flat earthers say, oh, it's just in a studio, there's no ISS, it's all fake. But I disagree with that. So I think they don't tell us complete lies, they tell us half-truths.
Right.
So I do think there are satellites.
Yeah.
Right? I do think that there are telescopes up in high altitude.
Yeah.
Not in outer space, but in high altitude above the plane of the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah? So I do subscribe to that idea. So I think they tell us a half-truth, and they tell us that these... So for instance, the ISS, I think is just an aeroplane. It's not some sort of crazy... when you look up and they're saying you're looking at the ISS, you're just seeing this plane called Sophia. I don't know if you've heard of Sophia.
No.
Yeah, so if you Google Sophia, this NASA... it's a NASA shuttle, basically. Low Earth orbit shuttle.
Yeah.
That they usually do experiments in. So I think that's what you're looking at.
Right.
Okay.
And what they show you with all those solar panels, I think that is in a studio.
Just trying to Google it now. You spelled Sophia with a H. No, it's got an
F, isn't it?
Sophia, yeah.
I do think is. What do you think then? Because are you aware of there's a Himawara satellite, is a Himawara 8, and it's a Japanese weather forecasting satellite, and it claims to take a picture of the Earth every 10 minutes to observe weather patterns. What do you think about that?
Right. Well, I'm willing to bet if you looked at those pictures, they're all CGI. I'm willing to bet it's all CGI. And if you've got a good eye for what is real and what is fake, I'm willing to bet my money. Or if it's not CGI, it's basically a plane in high Earth orbit taking photographs. Not in outer space, but just very high above.
Well, in this,
the Earth.
I mean, it's in the pictures. It's got the whole world in the view.
But that said, though, I could tell you now.
Does it look real?
The only thing I would say about that is
the picture, isn't it?
the nature of that. Like, so the camera, you would need what they call a fisheye lens. So it's a lens. It does distort stuff. You can see on the end, it's kind of distortions on the end. But then
are
again,
you seeing the whole Earth?
no, you're not. But as I said, that lens is a fisheye lens.
We're
it's
looking
distorted.
at the ISS at the moment, though. We're not looking at the Himalayas.
Oh no, we're not looking at that. No. So Martin,
It is interesting. What do you think then? So one of the biggest bits of evidence for the world being round is the pictures that were taken in the moon landings. What do you think about that then? Because it's a really iconic and famous picture, isn't it, of the world half in black, half in light. So in terms of the moon landings, do you think that wasn't right either? That wasn't true. We didn't go to the moon.
See, Martin, I personally don't think we went when they said. I think we've been, but I don't think they went when they said they went. That's my opinion.
Okay, so here's a very simple question.
Mm-hmm.
We are told we went to the moon about 50 years ago.
Yeah.
50 years ago,
Yeah.
right? With technology less than your mobile phone.
Yeah, no, that's the bit. Yeah, that's the bit I don't get.
Right? The technology they used to go to the moon was less than a mobile phone.
Yeah.
50 years ago. Now, you'd think in this day and age, by now, we should have hotels up there with the technology we have today.
Yeah.
We should have a 24-hour camera on the moon. I would be watching it every day if we had a moon channel. The camera is just on the...
There's a really interesting book. It's called The Day After Roswell. I can never say the guy's name who wrote it is Colonel. What's his name?
I
can never say it. And what he claims is that actually there are moon bases. He said after Roswell, he was in charge of reverse engineering alien technology, and what he says is America and Russia do have bases on the moon, and they are monitoring the Earth. They are, and they're alien presence on the moon. What do you think of that?
Nah.
No?
Nah, it's all BS. It's all BS. NASA themselves,
Yeah.
if you go to the NASA website, they'll tell you human beings have never been past the Van Allen belt.
I've read that as well.
Yeah? So they tell us there's a field of energy around the Earth called the Van Allen belt.
Yeah, yeah.
And humans have never gone past the Van Allen belt.
Yeah.
And they tell us that the moon is 239,000 miles away in deep dark space. So how did we go there if we've never been past the Van Allen belt? Which one is it?
Yeah.
You're lying about one of the two.
There's a really interesting.
They're lying whores, Martin.
They are lying whores. There's a really interesting interview. It was like in the 80s, and it was done by the chief engineer, and he was on the Sputnik project. And what they said to the Russians is, if you were able to get a man into space 10 years before the Americans even started their space program, how come you didn't get to the moon before the Americans? And he said, because it's impossible. Isn't that interesting?
And that was it.
That was his reply. It was impossible.
It's absolutely impossible. We've never been to the moon. No one can go to we've not been to the moon. And I believe we cannot get past I believe NASA when they say humans cannot go past the Van Allen belt. I believe that.
I read this.
Electromagnetic torus fields.
I read this. I can't remember. And I'm quoting these. I read so many articles and things, and I should write some of them down. But someone had did a calculation of sort of what level of protection you would need to get through the Van Allen belt, and I think they said you would need like a spaceship that was like 13 foot of lead walls just to get through, just to get through there. And they said on re-entry, and what's really interesting about the moon landing as well, Neil Armstrong, I think it was only like 8 months before we went to the moon, he couldn't land the lunar module in Earth's gravity. Did you know that? So he'd attempted, there were lots of attempts, and he'd crashed, and there's actually quite a few videos you can look up on YouTube. And then, 8 months later, and the first attempt, so remember the Russians had sent a man to the moon, I think it was 1959 it was. And
so they claimed.
But before they did that, they sent a dog up. Imagine...
So they claimed.
So they claim. But imagine that, that sounds sensible to me. But
send a dog.
Well, no, I mean...
Not your bloody dog.
I know, not for my dog. But what the point I'm trying to make is the Americans attempted something that's never been attempted before, ever. And they didn't send, a monkey, or they didn't send a dog, or they didn't send a hamster. They just sent loads of human beings, and they went, and they
that's a good point.
Did it the first time. It's like shooting at a dartboard in the dark, isn't it? And they hit the bullseye.
So here's something that always makes people think, and this made me stop to really think and go, wow, I can see how this played out.
Yeah.
Okay? Right. So, we're told that we've known that the Earth is a spinning ball for thousands of years, right? That's what we're told, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Right. Now, get this. When was the first time we had the technology to go high enough to confirm this theory? Yes.
Probably Nazis during the Second World War.
Yeah, 1931.
Yeah. That
was the first time in human history we could actually confirm what we had been telling everyone for the last 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Right? So before that, no one had gone high enough to say, oh yes, you know what we've been teaching you? It's 100% true. It is a ball, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
1931, there's a man, Google him, his name is Auguste Piccard. Professor Auguste Piccard.
Right.
He was a Swiss scientist.
Yeah.
An explorer. He was the first man to go high enough to see the Earth for himself. The shape and size of the Earth.
Mm-hmm. How would you do that? How would you do that? Like on a rocket or something,
He built a blimp.
Bloody hell, yeah.
Yeah, a balloon. Basically a balloon.
Yeah.
And he went high, and I forgot the exact height. When he came back down, he reported that the Earth looked like a pancake with upturned edges. Word for word.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's what he said.
Like a Chicago Town pizza kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was his report. The first human being to go high enough to confirm whether the Earth is a ball or it's flat was in 1931 by a name Auguste Piccard, and he said it looked like a pancake with upturned edges.
Yeah.
Now, at that point, do you think in 1931 the powers that be would have gone on the news and gone, world, by the way, everything we've been telling you has been wrong. Everything you've learned has been wrong. Right? We don't know where the fuck we are. We don't know anything.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Right? So, it's interesting that just after that, we had World War II. Right? So World War II happens, right? After World War II, Mr. Piccard is retired. No one ever hears about him.
Yeah.
5 years later, NASA is created out of the blue.
Yeah.
Right? 3 years later, we've gone to the moon.
Yeah.
Look how quick that has happened. 15 years, we went from never being high enough to going to the moon in 15 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is the bit that kind of froze me, because what's happened, because when was the first flight, the Edison brothers, when was that?
Just before the turn of the century, was it?
No, just after. Was it
Late 1800s.
Yeah. Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise that. But anyway, like my nan, going back to my late nan, God rest her soul, she had never seen an aeroplane before. Bear in mind, there are people in Wales who still haven't seen an aeroplane, but that's for other reasons.
People in Wales never seen a bloody dentist.
Yeah, there's people, and my nan had never seen an aeroplane in her life, and she died, when did she die?
About 4 years ago,
about 5-6 years ago. Yeah. So within a lifetime, within a generation, there are people who have gone from never seeing an aeroplane for us going to the moon. And that all happened in my nan's lifetime. So that bit I do find a bit...
Less than that.
Yeah.
That was probably half her lifetime.
Yeah. My nan was born at the end of the war, 1918. So First World War. She'd never seen an airplane to go into that too.
It's a short period of time, isn't it? Yeah. Astronomical.
It's a crazy leap, yeah. Now here's what blew my mind as well. When I started researching, I realized that actually the whole ball Earth versus flat Earth wasn't a foregone conclusion pre-World War II.
Yeah.
So before World War II, there were some schools and countries teaching flat Earth science.
It's crazy,
including in the UK.
Yeah.
Wow. See, I didn't know that. That's quite interesting.
Yeah. So if you Google a guy called John Gorst.
John Gorst.
So John Gorst, Gorst. In 1901, he made headlines.
Yeah.
And the headlines were, this headmaster at a school in Portsmouth was teaching his kids fake science, that the earth is a spinning ball.
Yeah.
And the city council wanted to take him to court.
Wow.
Portsmouth City Council were taking him to court for teaching fake science to his school kids.
Yeah.
Hey, there was teachers I went to school who taught bullshit. They were fluent in bullshit.
There were teachers I went to school that went to court for very different reasons.
Leave that there.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy when you start scratching the surface.
So that implies to me that school, at least that school in Portsmouth, was teaching its kids that the earth is flat. Flat earth science, geocentric science.
Yeah.
And here comes this headmaster who pops up and he goes, no, we're not going to teach the kids that anymore. We're going to teach them that we're on a spinning ball. This is in 1901. This is not thousands of years ago. This is recently.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true, isn't it?
It's true, and it's insane, and like you said, there are certainly questions, aren't there?
In terms of one of the theories that I've read about the flat Earth is the dome theory. What's your thoughts on that? That we're living in a dome and we can't escape the dome. There are lots of references, especially in Hillary Clinton, when she talks about smashing the glass ceiling and escaping. What's your thoughts on that? The Simpsons reference it quite a lot as well, haven't they? There's been quite a...
Well, in the Simpsons film.
Yeah.
And there's a big dome.
Yeah, and films like The Truman Show.
But I don't think it's a glass dome per se.
Yeah.
I think it's an electromagnetic field. It's the Van Allen belt.
Yeah.
So the Earth is flat, and above the Earth is like a dome-shaped electric field.
Yeah.
Right? And this electromagnetic field, some people are saying, is made of a substance called plasma.
Yeah.
So it's like a glassy, electrified sort of substance. And this is what is basically covering us.
Yeah.
So we're inside this field of energy.
There's a really good...
I think...
Go on, sorry. Go on.
Sorry?
No, go on, sorry.
Yeah, so I think this dome or this field of energy is what is keeping us out from leaving this realm. What NASA says, we can't leave the Van Allen belt.
Yeah.
I think they're talking about this electromagnetic field. And in fact, you can actually see two of them. One of them is the Northern Lights.
Right, yeah. So I tell you a funny story. Tom and his girlfriend.
It wasn't funny. It really pissed me off.
They paid to go on a flight from Cardiff Airport to see the Northern Lights. I think, how much was it?
It was too much.
Yeah, too much money. Anyway, they went there and they didn't see it.
Oh, really?
That's freaking awful, Martin.
She said, didn't it? No, it's funny, isn't it?
That's quite an interesting thought, actually, Martin. That maybe
Northern Lights.
The Northern Lights.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. And even on the outside, we've got the Aurora Australis.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Southern Lights, the Aurora Australis.
Yeah.
So that is the southern electromagnetic dome that is around the ice wall.
Wow. Do you know? It's really interesting, and I told you I joined this Flat Earth Society just to do a bit of research before our interview, and there was.
Can I just say? Sorry.
Yeah,
Can I just say? The Flat Earth Society is a psyop.
It's what? Sorry.
Yeah. It's a psyop. It's a government psyop.
Right. Oh gosh.
Yeah. So don't go by what they said. I think they are a fake agency that was created to make the flat Earth topic look stupid.
Well,
because
no,
they say that
one of the things
is moving
though,
upwards and all kinds of weird theories.
Yeah.
Which most flat Earthers do not subscribe to.
Well, one of the things that they kept showing me is this video, and what it was someone had. It was an independent sort of researcher, and what he'd done, I think it was I can't remember, some desert in America, and they got a rocket and they'd had a video filming down on a panorama of the Earth, and actually it goes right up, it goes thousands and thousands of foot, and then there's a big clunk, and it just stops and falls back to Earth. Have you seen that video?
Yes,
that's odd. That is, and you know, there was these guys. Well, if the Earth's not covered by a big dome, how do you explain? I don't claim to explain it. You know, I don't claim that. I've never claimed that I can explain it, actually. I did find that really, really odd, I've got to say.
Martin, funny enough, I had a funny experience.
That's the great thing, because we're living in an age of technology.
Yeah.
Before, we were told where we are, what the Earth is. You know, a guy would come on with a suit and say, I'm an astrophysicist, and, you know, you tell you everything you need to know, and we just believe it, because we have no way of verifying or disproving it. We just say, well, he's educated, he's smart, he's on telly, he's got a degree, so he must be telling the truth. Right?
Yeah. Wait there, Martin. I've got a degree. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
Hey, Martin. I got a funny. Like I'm one of these people. I probably think that the world is round, but I'm quite open to listening to like some of the stuff you said is absolutely fascinating. But I went to Florida on a holiday. Right, it was a bit of a nightmare actually. It was too hot for me, Martin. I'm far too Welsh for the Florida heat. But anyway, I went to the Kennedy Space Center, right? So we just about got there. That's another story. The guy broke down and quit the day we were there, Martin.
Yeah.
That's another story in itself, right? The tour guide bloody had a breakdown, started crying on my shoulder and quit his job. He had to get our own way home. Yeah. Anyway, we got an Uber taxi. Anyway, Martin.
They don't pay their taxes.
When we went there on a specific day because a satellite was being launched. And interestingly, the satellite didn't go straight up. It kind of went that way.
There you go.
It didn't go straight. I've got a video of it actually, Martin. And it didn't go straight. It kind of went
veered violently to the left.
It did. It did.
So I think they are going to outer space, but not outer space up, outer space sideways.
Right. Okay.
To the extraterrestrial lands on the plane, which is what would explain why all these satellites. They never shoot upwards, never. They always go sideways.
Yeah. Well, I can attest to that because I saw that first.
Do you know in terms of then, like when they're beaming back all these pictures about like Mars and things like that? What do you think about that? Do you think that I've read, you know, some? Pardon?
It's all CGI.
What I've read, I read this.
Even NASA. There's a guy called Robert Simmons.
Right.
Have you seen the interview?
He works
for NASA.
No.
So there's a guy called Robert Simmons, and he did an interview explaining how they recreate all the planets, including Earth. So he says there's no photograph of Earth. He is a CGI expert. So what they do is they take small clips of Earth, and then he puts these composites together of what he thinks the Earth might look like.
Yeah.
Those were his exact words. So there is not a single photograph of the Earth. All of them are composites. They're images. They're not photographs.
I know that I was reading this article, and what this guy claims is that actually, you know, all these pictures are just sent back just to justify the massive money that's being spent by the not just American government but British government. I was watching a really there's a good program on we were watching it on Sunday night. Do you watch it? Jack Osborne and Ozzy Osbourne? Probably not.
No.
And anyway, there's this sort of scientific sort of lab in Utah, and what it is, it's so people can live in the conditions in Mars, and they can replicate the things, and it actually does look like it's in the middle of Mars, and astronaut people live there, and they go and do experiments, sort of like. And Jack Osborne and Ozzy Osbourne actually went there, and it was on TV. You know,
it does look. It could. If I was a film director,
it looks just like Mars.
It looks just like Mars.
In Utah, it is. It's like 70 miles away from the nearest road or something, and it's fully manned by scientists all the time. You know, and people the public aren't allowed to go there, and you know they were there because it's Ozzy Osbourne, isn't it? You know,
right, Martin.
That's where Mars is. When they show you footage of the Mars rover, it's here on Earth. It's not on on some planet out in space. It's here on Earth.
Well, after watching that program, I can believe that, Martin, because it did literally look like what you'd imagine it to be.
What's your thoughts then? You know, when you look up into the stars and there's like a million, billion, zillion stars in the sky. So, wow, actually in Cardiff you see about 3. But you know, if you're in a dark sort of
one of those is an airplane.
What do you think about them though? So all of those planets appear to me to be round. What's your thoughts on that?
why do you say that they're round? Why do you say the planets are round?
They appear round,
Wait,
don't they?
Martin, how good's your bloody eyesight?
What do you mean?
You can see a planet from here, can you?
Well, no. You know what I mean. You look up at the stars. One time we did buy this really crap telescope, didn't we, Tom?
Yeah.
And we did. It's just a blur, actually. Wasn't
Everything
it?
looked bloody round on that.
Everything made it look black. Yeah. To be fair.
Well, there you go. There you go. So if you bought a camera called the P900, which is the best camera on the market today,
Yeah.
you can actually zoom into some of these planets like Mars and Venus.
Yeah.
And all they look like is shimmering lights.
Yeah.
That's all they look like. There are many people who've put videos up of these. They do not look like balls like were shown by NASA. They just look like lights.
Yeah.
In fact, they look like lights in water.
Yeah. That's true,
That's
actually.
what they
Because
look
remember we were looking at Jupiter in one. And
Well,
it just
Martin, we thought we were looking at Jupiter.
Yeah, we
it
probably
wasn't
weren't.
Jupiter.
But it did look really, really, really weird, didn't it?
Yeah. No, you're quite right.
So there's nothing that says that they're spherical. That is a fallacy.
Yeah.
You know, anyone who says that is mistaken. They do not look like spheres. They just look like lights, shimmering lights.
Because Martin, I was reading. Well, I was watching a video, and basically, I think it was after you went on the program. What's that guy's name? He's
Professor
bloody
Brian
mouthy. Brian Cox. That's him. Actually, I quite like him, but he's a bit mouthy, isn't he?
He was in a band, you know that.
He's a good actor. Really good actor.
Yeah, good musician as well.
He said, right, now I don't know about this, I'm not a scientist, but he reckons that after an object is so big, it would have to be round, otherwise it'd implode on itself. So basically, that's the way he explained. I might have got it wrong, I might have misquoted him.
I think you might have misquoted that.
Someone said, and I'm sure it was him,
Yeah.
someone said that the world would have to, that's why the world's round, because it's so big, it would have to, otherwise it would implode on itself. What's your thoughts on that, Mike?
So at this point, you've got two options. One is to say, well, I believe him. I believe anything he says because he's smart. Or to say, do you know what? I don't believe that. I don't know. I'm not just going to believe him because some guy has just said it and he's wearing a posh suit and he's on telly.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Yeah, I think
so I choose to say, I'm skeptical. I say, do you know what? There's no proof of that. That is his theory. It is a theory. There is no proof of it. Until it's proven, it's a theory.
Yeah, and what I do, I'm a big believer in that, actually. I'm a big believer that, you know, I have worked in hospitals and things and that, and, you know, and when doctors will speak to somebody, it's just accepted.
Yeah.
A doctor will say something, I think you've got this condition, you've got that condition, and, you know, they're a doctor, they're clever, they've got a nice suit on, a nice watch, and they're right. And it is, I suppose it is, isn't it?
It's like the authority thing, isn't it? What's it called? The white overall syndrome, is it? Or fluorescent jacket syndrome, where people will just accept. There are social media videos when people will go up to someone and they'll wear a fluorescent jacket and a cardboard or whatever, and they'll say, right, give me your wallet, give me this, and people just willingly do it. Maybe
I need to dress in my fluorescent jacket and ask Tom for the tenner back he owes me. I come back as an authoritative person.
Hey, Martin, you can keep asking.
Yeah, I know.
So, Martin, we've got some questions from some of our viewers for you. Right then. So, Paul, we got some questions for some of our viewers.
Okay.
So, Paul says, Paul Coleman says, can you please ask the guest why he has not fallen off the edge of the Earth? The Earth is flat. Also, if the Earth is flat, why does the northern and southern hemispheres get seasons?
So, the first question of falling off the edge, like I said earlier, why are you assuming that there is an edge?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, why make that assumption? I don't know if there is an edge. Why? Because I'm not allowed to go to the Antarctic. There's the Antarctic Treaty, which stops any human being from going far down south. If you get to the Antarctic, you're stopped by the UN, and you're told to go back and get a permit from the government, from your local government. And if you do that, unless you're being escorted by a scientific government expedition, you will not be given the permit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if there is an edge because no one is allowed to go. So that's the first one. The second one, sorry, what was the second question?
The second question is also, if the Earth is flat, why do the northern and southern hemispheres get seasons?
Right, so according to the azimuthal equidistant map, which is the map that most geological surveys use, which is a flat Earth map, like a plate sort of thing, with the center being the North Pole and the outer rim being the South Pole. Right. According to that model, the sun and moon are central, they're local. They are closer to Earth. They're not millions of miles away in deep dark space, but actually a few thousand miles above the Earth.
Right.
They're not that far. So the sun orbits over and around the Earth, which is what causes day and night and causes seasons. So it spirals inwards. When it's in at the center, this is when the northern hemisphere, the central part of the flat Earth, has its summer. When it spirals outwards to the outer rim of the Earth, this is when the southern hemisphere have their summer and the northern hemisphere have their winter. So the sun coils, it spirals up and down and around above the plane of the Earth.
Okay then.
Cheers.
Well, we've got another question from Paul as well. He's obviously loving the subject.
He was obviously off work, wasn't he?
How come people can see the curvature of the Earth from the top of Mount Everest?
So I would say, has he been to the top of Mount Everest and seen the curvature?
I doubt it.
Himself?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Right?
I don't think
I
Paul's
would
a
say,
mountain climber.
so don't believe things you are told, because everyone will say, well, I've seen it with my own eyes. No, have you seen it with your own eyes? Because everyone says that. Because I've been at a high altitude, I've been on a plane and seen for myself that doesn't have, oval windows or fisheye lens, and there is no curvature. There is no curvature. So I've seen that firsthand myself. So I would say to Paul, don't believe when someone says, well, I've been on this mountain and I've seen it with my own eyes. How do you know?
Yeah.
You need to make an expedition, go see for yourself. And if you see curvature with your own eyes, then believe that the Earth is a ball. Until then, be skeptical.
Yeah.
So I've got another question from Greg Nicholas, but I think you've answered it actually. What about Mars, Jupiter, and all the other planets? Are they flat as well? You answered that earlier, didn't you?
I did, but even if they weren't, if a pool table is flat, would you assume that the snooker balls or the pool balls are also flat?
I don't know, you should see some of the places we play pool. Some of them are like literally square.
No. So why assume that the heavenly bodies would be flat if the Earth is flat, right?
Yeah.
The pool table is flat, but the balls on the pool table are not flat, they're balls.
Yeah.
So even if there are spheres, those heavenly bodies, does not mean the Earth we are standing on is also a sphere.
Okay.
But the evidence, when you look with your own camera, and I have seen through a P900 myself, they do not look like spheres, they just look like lights.
Okay.
That's all I can say. I don't know what they are, they just look like shimmering lights.
Ronan Trezise, I probably misspelled that. I know. What else can I do to find if... Okay then, so what else can she do to find the wall of ice that surrounds the Earth?
Well, we can't do anything because we're not allowed to.
So could people literally go up to it, or is there like a distance?
Yeah, you'd be stopped though, wouldn't you? There's
Oh, yeah,
military
like,
bases.
If you go on YouTube, there are people who've taken videos of it. So if you go on YouTube and you
really?
say flat Earth ice wall, loads of videos will come up.
I've seen quite a few videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really amazing actually. It looks weird.
Yeah.
It looks really weird.
Martin, one question. Why would the government want to keep the fact that the world's flat from people? Like, why wouldn't they just tell... What benefits is it in it for them to keep it from everyone?
Who's that from?
Power.
It's purely power.
Power. So if you think about it, right? If you tell people that you're stuck on this ball, there's nothing else out there, only the government can find anything outside this Earth. You're here and you're stuck here on this rock. You're stuck with us. There's no escape. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing else out there. It's just you and us. You are reliant on the government, aren't you?
Yeah.
Whatever they say, you go with because there's nothing else, right?
I get that feeling living on the country
imagine,
estate I grew up on.
once people know that actually no, there are other resources, there are other extraterrestrial lands with other resources, there is enough land, we stop fighting over land, right?
Yeah,
Most of the wars are about land and resources. Wars end. And if wars end, the people who make money off war are not rich anymore.
Yeah. That's a really sobering thought, isn't it? I get that. I get that thing when I go into work every day. There's no escape.
That's it.
So Scott Seward asks, so does the sun and moon move, or are we just stationary in space? And is space even there?
So yes,
That's a treble question.
The terra firma Earth we're standing on does not move. There's no experiment or scientific anything to prove that the Earth itself is moving. That doesn't exist. But obviously, it's the sun and the moon and all the celestial bodies that move above us. So everything is moving above the Earth. All the sun, the moon, the stars rotate above us. So when you talk about outer space, it depends on what you mean by outer space. So like I said earlier on, I personally believe there is outer space, but it's not up in the sky, it's sideways along the plane.
Wow.
That is outer space, outside the space we're in, on the plane of the Earth. I also think that above the Earth, between the Earth, above us is what's called a firmament, a roof. Right? So as above, so below. So we're at the bottom on the Earth, and above us is what they call a firmament, where all the stars are revolving around. So the space between the Earth and the sky is what you might call space.
Yeah. Fascinating, isn't it?
No, that's really interesting. It's certainly left food for thought, and you've answered everyone's questions categorically, Martin.
I know, that's awesome.
Awesome.
So, Martin...
But again, I don't preach any of this.
No.
These are theories.
Yeah.
I don't know this as fact. This is just my research and what I found and what makes sense.
Yeah.
But what I do know as a fact is the Earth is 100%, as far as I'm concerned, not a violently spinning ball.
Wow.
We're not on a ball. You're never upside down. We're not moving at 1,000 miles an hour this way, and then 65,000 miles an hour that way, and then 450,000 miles an hour that way, and then 500,000 miles an hour through space. That is not happening. We are completely stationary, unless there's an earthquake. When there's an earthquake, then the Earth is moving. And you know it's moving because there's an earthquake.
Yeah.
And you haven't got no house.
There was an earthquake in Cardiff about 4 months ago, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was ages ago.
We were moving then, Martin, I can show you.
Yeah, the house is shut.
It's interesting because Brian Cox, in that ITV interview, said that the flat Earth makes no sense. It's nonsensical.
Yeah, he did, yeah. He was slagging you right off, Martin.
It's interesting that he used the word sense because what is nonsensical is to ignore your common sense.
Yeah. That's a valid, yes,
So
good
your
point.
common senses tell you that you're not moving. Your common senses tell you that you're not upside down. Your common senses tell you that water does not stick to the outside of a moving object. That's what common sense tells you. But science tells you to ignore your common senses, right? Which is nonsense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, no, you're
Because
right.
you're ignoring your common sense.
Yeah, no, it's a valid point, Martin. It's a valid point. So, Martin, thank you very much for coming on. Before we go, where can people find out more about you? And if they want to get more information on you, have you got a website? Have you got a YouTube page?
So yes, I've got a YouTube channel called Flat Earth Universe. Just Flat Earth Universe. So if you go on there, I've got quite a few videos, different things. I talk about NASA and space and other topics as well, other things that I'm into. But like I'm saying, don't be turned off if you see something that you don't agree with. I always say, investigate something. If something doesn't make sense, ignore it, but take what makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not here to preach anything or to shove anything down anyone's throat, because I don't know. I'm just a researcher trying to find answers to things that don't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's the way I put it. So Flat Earth Universe is my YouTube channel. I'm also quite active on Facebook, just under the name Martin Kenny. I post quite a lot about my research and stuff on there as well.
Oh, brilliant, Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll have to get you on further down the line.
Fascinating. Absolutely
fascinating. I'm sure the viewers are going to love it.
Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome, man. So, for everyone listening, thanks very much for listening. You can find us on the Lad Chat podcast on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Instagram, Facebook. Martin, we're omnipresent. We're everywhere.
We're
mate.
everywhere.
Oh, fantastic.
Brilliant. Right then.
I'll start following you for sure.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thanks again, Martin. You've been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.
you,
It's been
Tom and Chris signing
fascinating.
out.
Cheers, Martin.